Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles.
Dear listeners, before we get started, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you have any suggestions for us to make the channel better, please let us know. Now let's start with the story. I'm Samuel, 33 years old. I've been married to my wife, Sarah, she's 30, for 7 years. We have, or at least I thought we had, a 3-year-old daughter, Rebecca. I say thought because, turns out there are things I didn't know. A lot of things. It started like any other day. I took our little one out, just me and her. We went to the park, shared snacks, laughed at squirrels, played on the swings. She insisted on racing me to the car, like always. It was one of those simple, perfect days that makes you feel like life is actually working the way it should. We got home. I kicked back on the couch, my little girl curled up beside me with her blanket. I was tired, but it was that good kind of tired. I was already thinking about tomorrow. Maybe we'd go to the zoo. Something special. Then my wife came in. She sat down beside me. A little too close, like she needed something but didn't know how to ask. I glanced over. Her face was off. Not exactly sad. Just tight. Her eyes were glassy. Something was clearly sitting on her chest, heavy. You okay? I asked casually, but I could feel something stir in my gut. She didn't answer right away. She looked down, wiped her hands on her pants, and then looked up at me with this strange mix of guilt and resolve. And then she said it. Just like that. There's something I need to tell you. And it's big. My stomach nodded instantly. Big? What kind of big? My head started racing. Was someone sick? Her parents? Was it about her job? Or, God forbid, our daughter? I leaned forward. What is it? I asked, keeping my voice steady. She hesitated, silent for a beat too long. Then finally, she looked me straight in the eye and said it. She's not yours. I blinked. What? Our daughter, she said. She's not biologically yours. I stared at her, trying to process the words. Not mine. Our daughter? What was she even saying? My brain felt like it short-circuited. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. I was already trying to think of what to say, how to respond, but nothing was connecting. I felt as if my brain were frozen. Just locked up. Nothing was moving, nothing was clear. But she didn't stop. She kept talking. And somehow, it just kept getting worse. She started, her voice cracking. I had an affair. It was with this guy from the gym. It was just a few times, before I found out I was pregnant. I kept staring at her. My ears were ringing. I couldn't feel my feet. She wiped her face, sobbing now, her voice trembling. As soon as I told him there might be a child, he just left. Disappeared. Blocked me. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to tell you. I thought I could move on, raise her with you, pretend like nothing happened. I could barely hear her. It was like she was talking from the end of a long tunnel, distant and muffled. The only thing that cut through was her crying, louder now, shaking as she put her hands on her knees and leaned forward. I never meant to hurt you, she said, reaching toward me, her voice raw. Samuel, please. I didn't know what else to do. I made a mistake. A horrible, stupid mistake. She put her hand on my arm, and I just stood there, looking at her. But I didn't see her anymore. It was the weirdest feeling. I was looking directly at her face, this person I've shared my life with for 7 years, and it was like I was staring at a stranger. Her voice, her tears, her hand on me, none of it felt real. I couldn't feel my hands. I couldn't even feel the couch beneath me. All I felt was this crushing tightness in my chest. It was like the floor had given way under me, like my whole life had been ripped out from underneath me in an instant. And then the memories started flashing. The first time I held our daughter in my arms. That warm, weightless moment, like everything in the world had finally made sense. The nights I got up at 3 a.m. to rock her back to sleep. The first time she reached out, saying daddy, like I was her whole world. Every one of those moments felt poisoned now. Twisted, contaminated by a lie I didn't even know existed. As if they'd been taken from me, and in their place was some cruel reminder that I was just filling in. I wasn't her father. I was just the guy who stuck around when the real one ran off. And she, my wife, was still crying, apologizing again and again. Samuel, please, I never wanted it to happen like this. I love you. I love what we have. I couldn't hear it. It was all just noise now. I wasn't even sure I was in the same room anymore. The walls felt far away. My own body felt far away. I couldn't think. I couldn't speak. All I could feel was betrayal. It wasn't even just the cheating. It wasn't just the affair. It was that she knew. She knew for 3 years. Every day, she made the choice to look me in the eye, to let me play house, to let me live this lie, to love a child under the assumption she was mine. And she let it happen. Every single day. Eventually, I managed to get up. My legs were shaking, but I forced myself to stand. I couldn't look at her. I just couldn't. My voice was barely steady as I said, I need air. I can't be in the same place as you right now. She immediately stood up, panic rising in her voice. Please, Samuel, don't go. Don't walk out. We can talk this through. We can fix this. Please. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I wasn't even really hearing her anymore. Her voice was just a background noise to the roaring in my head. I didn't mean for it to happen, she cried. I love you. I love our family. Please, Samuel, don't leave. Don't leave me. But I wasn't listening. My hands were shaking as I grabbed my jacket from the hook by the door. She tried to follow, reaching for me, but I didn't stop. I walked out the door, her voice trailing behind me, full of desperation and tears. I stepped outside, but the air didn't feel any lighter. It felt cold, thick, like I was moving through fog. I looked at my house, our house, and it felt unfamiliar, like it belonged to someone else. My life, my family, everything was collapsing right in front of me, and I couldn't stop it. I couldn't even process it. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have anywhere to go. I just knew I couldn't be there. Not with her. Not with that weight pressing down on my chest. I got in the car and drove. I didn't even know where I was headed. I just kept going. Streetlights blurred past me. The city felt like a ghost town, quiet and distant, like I wasn't part of it anymore. All I felt was this strange hollowness inside me, like something had been scooped out. And under that emptiness, a dull throbbing pain that pulsed with every thought. I kept thinking, I did everything right. I was a good man, a good father. I was faithful. I was there. I thought that counted for something. I thought if I loved them hard enough, it would protect us. But it didn't. I ended up checking into some random hotel. The room was plain. Bland walls, generic paintings, stale air. It suited the way I felt, blank, empty. I didn't sleep. I just sat there, staring at the ceiling, the wall, my own hands. My mind wouldn't stop. I kept hearing her voice, kept seeing our daughter's face, remembering the way she said, "Love you, Daddy," and how I used to feel like the luckiest man alive when she did. Now it all felt stolen. I picked up my phone at some point, but I couldn't bring myself to turn it on. I didn't want to see messages. I didn't want to hear her voice again. I didn't want reality knocking any harder than it already was. But in the morning, I finally did it. I turned on my phone. It was like opening a floodgate. A bunch of messages and missed calls from my wife started pouring in the moment the phone came back to life. One after another, back to back. Please come home. We can work this out. I am so sorry. You are her father no matter what. Blah, blah, blah. I didn't read them all. I didn't want to. Just scrolling through them was enough to make my chest feel like it was caving in. I could see the desperation in every word, the guilt, the panic, but none of it mattered. None of it changed what she did. None of it changed the truth. Halfway through the list, I just stopped. My thumb hovered for a second. Then I blocked her. I needed space. Real space. And seeing her words, even in silence, was like adding fuel to a fire I was already drowning in. I forced myself to get dressed and grabbed a quick breakfast from the hotel's sad little buffet downstairs. I could barely taste it, but I ate something just to stop the shaking. After that, I called a lawyer. No emotions, no breakdown. Just facts. I need to talk about a divorce, I said. There's been infidelity. And there's a child involved. One I've raised as mine. But she isn't biologically mine. He didn't interrupt. Just listened. His voice was calm when he finally spoke. Okay, Samuel. First, I'm sorry you're going through this. I'll walk you through the process. He explained everything clearly. The paperwork, the timing, the custody implications, the questions that would come up. It felt cold, clinical, but I appreciated that. I needed something to be simple. Something to make sense. After I hung up, I called my boss. My voice cracked a little when I spoke, but I tried to keep it together. I need some time off, I said. He didn't press. Take whatever you need, he told me. A month, 2, just keep me updated. I hope everything's okay. That was the only good moment I'd had in what felt like forever. So in the afternoon, I thought I could finally exhale. Finally sit still for a moment. Just think. Plan. Breathe. But no. That peace lasted all of 20 minutes. My phone rang again. My sister's name lit up the screen. She'd always been in my corner. Always had my back, even when we disagreed. So I answered, expecting warmth, maybe even some anger on my behalf. I needed someone who'd just get it. Hey, I said. But instead of comfort, I got her voice, firm and disapproving. I talked to Sarah. She told me what happened. You have to think about your daughter in all this. Right there, my blood started to boil. My daughter. I didn't even know if she was my daughter, and my sister was already taking my wife's side. She just kept going, like she hadn't heard a word I said. She's sorry, Sam. She told me everything. You two need to talk this through. Don't throw it all away. Think about your daughter. That word again. Daughter. I couldn't answer at first. I just stood there, gripping the phone so hard I thought it might crack. My jaw was clenched, my heart pounding in my ears. I was furious. I could barely breathe. When I finally spoke, my voice came out low and tight. Do you even understand what she did? She lied to me. For years. How am I supposed to just forget that? But she didn't stop. I know you're hurt. I do, she said, her tone suddenly like she was talking to a stubborn child. But you have to look at the bigger picture. You've raised that little girl. She calls you daddy. You have a responsibility to her, no matter how she got here. I couldn't take it anymore. I don't need a damn lecture right now. I snapped, and I hung up. I barely had time to exhale before the phone rang again. This time, it was my mom, and I already knew where it was going. I answered anyway. I don't even know why. Maybe I hoped she'd be different. Maybe I thought, she's my mother. She'll understand. I was wrong. Her voice was sharp from the beginning. I heard what happened, she said. And I'm telling you right now, you need to go home and fix this. Fix this? I echoed, stunned. You think this is something I can fix? She's your wife? My mother said firmly. And that little girl is your daughter. We've all come to love her. She's part of this family. I was stunned silent. I tried to explain. Mom, she lied to me. For 3 years. About everything. How can you just look past that? She didn't even hesitate. Because biology doesn't matter, Samuel. You are her father in every way that counts. You're just being dramatic. Dramatic. That word hit me like a slap in the face. I felt like the ground beneath me was cracking all over again. She betrayed me, Mom. I said, my voice cracking. She cheated on me. And then she lied to my face every single day. You think that's something small. But she wouldn't listen. She kept pushing. You're being selfish. This isn't just about you, Samuel. You need to think about your daughter. My daughter. Like nothing had changed. Like the truth didn't matter. Like the fact that she wasn't mine, wasn't even a part of me, was just a detail I should shove under the rug. Then came the real blow. If you go through with this divorce, she said coldly, I'll disown you. That landed harder than I expected. I just stood there, holding the phone, the silence on my end stretching long. I didn't even have the words. I wasn't just angry, I was hurt. Deeply hurt. My own mother. Taking my wife's side. Dismissing what I felt, what I had lost. Throwing away years of loyalty, love, support, like it was nothing. Like I was nothing. As if my pain were secondary. It was as if no one cared that I had been lied to for years, that the life I thought I was living had been nothing but a carefully constructed sham. Everyone was so obsessed with this ideal of family, with this image of a little girl who, in the end, wasn't even biologically mine. As if that somehow made the betrayal acceptable. As if my pain didn't count. It was tearing me apart inside. I ended the call with my mom. No goodbye. Just click. I couldn't take any more of it. I sat there for a minute, staring at the wall, feeling like I was sinking into something dark and bottomless. Then I picked up my phone again and called the one person I knew would actually listen. Hey, I said, my voice raw. Sam, my best friend Frank answered immediately. Man, are you okay? No, I said. Not really. Look, I can't stay here. I can't deal with this alone. Can I crash at your place for a few days? You don't even have to ask, he said without missing a beat. Just come. We've got the guest room ready. Get over here. That was the first thing in days that felt like actual support. No lectures. No guilt. No blame. Just real, simple help. I can't even explain how much of a relief it was to hear someone take my side without trying to twist it into something else. I threw a few things into a bag, grabbed my keys, and left. The drive over felt lighter somehow, like I could finally breathe, like I was driving towards sanity. When I got to his house, he opened the door and just pulled me into a hug. No words. His wife came in with a glass of water and a blanket, and they both just sat with me. They didn't tell me to calm down. They didn't tell me to forgive. They didn't mention the word daughter once. I told them everything, how she confessed, what she said, how my family reacted. They just listened. And that meant everything. I didn't have to pretend to be okay. I didn't have to keep it together. For the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't being judged. But that peace didn't last long. A couple of days later, my phone buzzed with a long message from my mom. I didn't even want to read it, but I did anyway. It was exactly what I expected. If you go through with this divorce, she wrote, I will never forgive you. You'll be breaking this family apart. That little girl is your daughter in every way that matters. She went on and on about abandonment, responsibility, loyalty, as if I was the one who'd betrayed everyone. Then, not even an hour later, my sister chimed in with her own message. You're being heartless, Sam. You're thinking only about yourself. That little girl needs you. She loves you. You're destroying everything over one mistake. One mistake. It was like none of them remembered who had been betrayed here. Like they'd all erased my pain, my reality, and replaced it with their own version of what I was supposed to feel. I stared at my phone, completely numb. I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe how fast everyone had turned against me. As if her lie, her affair, Her years of deception didn't matter. As if I had no right to be hurt, no right to want out. They were all siding with her and my family. And in doing so, they were treating me like the villain. Like I was the one destroying this family. Like I was the bad guy. I couldn't take it anymore. I sat there, staring at my mom's message, the weight of it pressing down like a boulder on my chest. And then, finally, I responded. My thumbs moved faster than my thoughts, but every word came straight from my gut. I have every right to leave. I wrote. You don't get to blame me for this. I'm not abandoning anyone. My wife abandoned me the day she decided to cheat and then lie to my face for 3 years. That's where this all started. I sent it and stared at the screen, waiting. Her reply came quickly. Cold. Clipped. Do what you want, but don't come crying to us when you realize the mistake you're making. That one hit hard. But strangely, I also felt relief. Like a deep exhale I hadn't been able to release until then. If this was the cost of standing up for myself, then fine. So be it. I wasn't going to keep bending just to keep everyone else comfortable while I drowned. After that, I thought maybe, things would calm down. That with my mom and my sister shut out, I'd finally get some space. Just a little quiet to think, to breathe, to try and make sense of the mess that had become my life. But instead, they doubled down. It was like they'd made it their personal mission to break me. I could barely stand as it was, and they just kept coming. As if they decided I was the one who needed fixing. That I was the one who needed to be talked out of some childish tantrum. Then, a couple of days later, my wife must have received the divorce papers. And that's when the chaos really started. My phone lit up constantly, calls, texts, voicemails. From her. From my mom. From my sister. I stopped checking half of them. But the ones I did read just kept repeating the same chorus. Don't do this. Don't ruin the family. Don't make rash decisions. Think about your daughter. It was relentless. Then came the message, a long, rambling wall of text from my mother. She laid it all out. A list, practically, of everything she thought I was doing wrong. That I was giving up. That I was failing as a husband. That I was failing as a father. She didn't even try to sugarcoat it. You need to be a man, she wrote, and stand by your wife and your child. Even if she's not biologically yours. That's what makes a real father. Not DNA. I remember sitting there, reading that, feeling like I was being slapped in the face with every word. This is your chance to show strength, she went on. Real strength. Anyone can walk away. Anyone can run. But a real man stays and fixes what's broken. I just sat there, stunned. Frozen. My mom, my own mother, was calling me a coward. A coward for wanting to leave. She went on and on about how I was all my daughter had. How it was my responsibility to think of her first. Her exact words stuck with me. You've already raised her for 3 years. She knows you as her dad. Don't throw that away. And yeah, she wasn't wrong about that. My daughter knows me as her dad. In her world, that's what I am. But that doesn't erase what my wife did. It doesn't change the fact that I was lied to. For all 3 of those years. How do I just pretend that didn't happen? I didn't respond. I couldn't. I didn't even know what to say anymore. I was emotionally exhausted, completely drained. So I put my phone down. But of course, it didn't end there. A little while later, I saw a missed call from my sister. Then the voicemail came through. Her voice was softer than before, but still carried that tone, half pleading, half judging. Sam, she said, I know you're going through a lot. I know this hurts. But please, don't do something you'll regret. That little girl loves you. She needs you. You're her whole world. Don't make a mistake you can't undo. She said it like I was being impulsive. Like I hadn't been replaying this nightmare in my head every second of every day since it started. As if I'd made this decision lightly, in a fit of anger, and just needed to calm down and think it through. That hurt more than I expected. It made me feel like no one in my family even saw me anymore. Like my pain, my betrayal, meant less than the illusion they were desperate to keep alive. I was running on fumes at that point, just trying to survive each day without falling apart. My friend's house had been a safe place, quiet, free from judgment. But even there were limits to how much comfort anyone could give. They were kind, supportive, but this was a weight only I could carry. So I stayed quiet, kept to myself, spent my days avoiding my phone, dodging the thoughts I couldn't handle, pushing down the grief, the anger, the disbelief. Because my wife hadn't just cheated. She'd taken something from me. My sense of trust. My foundation. The belief that the life I had built was real. And now my own family was asking me to act like none of it mattered. Telling me to just forgive and move on like she'd missed a dinner reservation, not shattered my reality. Then, one night, when things had finally calmed down for a bit, I let my guard down and checked my messages. My wife had left a long message, pages of it, pouring her heart out, or at least pretending to. Every word felt like it had been carefully chosen to tug at something inside me, but I was too raw, too hollow, too damn tired to fall for it. She said she was sorry for everything, that she'd do anything to make it up to me, that she never wanted to lose me. She even had the nerve to write, "I didn't tell you sooner because I didn't want to hurt you." Didn't want to hurt me? I stared at those words, my stomach turning, my jaw clenched so tight it ached. She lied for 3 years. Every hug, every kiss, every time we looked at that little girl together, she was carrying this secret. And now she wanted to pretend she'd been protecting me? That pain wasn't just deep, it was suffocating, crushing. She kept going on about how we were still a family, how I was the only father our daughter had ever known, that we could still be happy again, as if this was some minor fight, as if she'd forgotten to pick up groceries or came home late from work, not that she had built our life together on a lie. Once we get past this, she wrote, we can be stronger. If we stick together. Stronger? She wanted us to be stronger? I couldn't finish it. I felt sick. I put the phone down and just sat there staring at the wall. I didn't respond. I couldn't respond. Nothing I could say would even begin to touch what I was feeling. The disbelief, the rage, the grief. She wanted me to be some kind of saint, someone who could just nod, forgive, move on. But I'm not. I'm not some emotionally invincible man. I'm just a regular person. And I was angry, furious in a way I had never known before. The next day, my phone rang again. It was my mom. I don't know why I answered. Maybe I hoped, this time she'd come around. That maybe she'd sat with it long enough to understand. I told myself I would stay calm. Just talk. But as soon as she started in with her usual line, "You need to see the big picture, Samuel," I felt something snap. I couldn't hold it back anymore. "No, Mom. Just stop," I said, my voice shaking but loud. "Stop telling me to look at the big picture. This is my picture. Right now. I wake up every day feeling like I'm living someone else's life. Like everything I thought was real was a damn lie. I need you to understand my point of view for once." She went quiet for a moment, and I thought maybe, something had landed. But then she said it. "Life isn't black and white, sweetheart. Everyone makes mistakes." And just like that, we were right back where we always ended up. She had an answer for everything. A counterpoint. A way to explain away every piece of pain I tried to offer. It was like she couldn't, or wouldn't, hear me, no matter how I tried to explain to her. And then she dropped this gem. "Are you really going to throw away your marriage and a beautiful family over a single mistake?" That was it. That was the moment I exploded. A single mistake. I snapped. "Do you even hear yourself, Mom? This wasn't just one mistake. This was years. Years of deception. Years of waking up next to someone who lied to me every single day. Don't call it a single mistake like she forgot to take out the trash." I was pacing, my hand gripping the phone tight, trying to keep my voice steady, but the anger was boiling up, overflowing. Everyone keeps acting like this is no big deal, like I'm just being sensitive or overreacting. But it is a big deal. She made me believe something that wasn't true. She made me love a child under false pretenses. And now you want me to pretend like none of it matters. There was silence for a moment. Then I heard her sigh, deep, annoyed, disappointed. Like I was some stubborn child throwing a tantrum because I didn't get my way. Then came her final blow. "Fine," she said coldly. "Do what you want. But don't expect us to support you if you keep pushing everyone away." It felt like a punch to the chest. Not because I didn't expect it, but because it was her. My mother. Drawing a line in the sand. Choosing my wife's lie over my truth. Over me. I ended the call without another word. No goodbye. Just silence. When I hung up, I stood there, the phone still in my hand, the room too quiet. A strange sense of relief washed over me, like I'd finally stopped trying to explain myself to people who weren't listening. But there was something else too. Something heavier. Emptiness. It was clear now. My mom, my sister, they didn't really want the truth. They wanted everything to look fine from the outside. To keep the image of a happy family intact, no matter what it cost me inside. They didn't get it. Maybe they never would. As I stood there alone, the full weight of it all settled on my shoulders. The betrayal. The isolation. The fact that even the people closest to me would rather I stay in a lie than make them uncomfortable with the truth. This was going to be a long, ugly fight. And I was in it alone. But I'd made my choice. I'd rather be alone than live a lie for one more second. Weeks passed. I ignored my wife's messages, let my mom's guilt trips rot in the inbox, and sent my sister's voicemails straight to archive. I thought space would help. I thought time would make things easier. But it didn't. If anything, it made the questions louder. Why did she do it? Why didn't she tell me sooner? How could she look me in the eye for 3 years and lie? It started eating me alive. So one day, I decided I had to face it. Face her. Not for reconciliation, not for closure. I didn't even know what I wanted. But I needed to see her. I needed to ask her, face to face, how she could lie to my face for years. I had questions, too many of them, and maybe I wasn't going to get the answers I wanted. But I couldn't move on without at least trying. I needed to look her in the eye and hear the words come from her mouth. I needed her to say it, not through a text, not in some long voicemail where she could script her guilt, but in person. So I texted her, "Meet me at the cafe on 7th, 5 p.m. I wasn't ready to go back to the house. Not with all those memories soaked into the walls. And I didn't want her anywhere near my friend's place, where I at least had a sliver of peace left. The cafe felt neutral. Public, but quiet. Enough privacy, but not completely cut off. I arrived early and picked a table tucked into the back corner. Out of the way, but where I could still see the door. My friend and his wife came with me, sat a few tables away, just in case. I told them I didn't know how this would go, and they didn't ask questions. They just nodded and stayed nearby, like anchors if I started to drift too far. She walked in 10 minutes later, looking like hell. Dark circles under her eyes, her shoulders drawn in like she was trying to shrink out of existence. She scanned the room and spotted me. For a second, I saw it, that flicker of hope in her eyes. Like she thought this meant something. Like I'd called her to reconcile, or to say I'd forgiven her. That flash pissed me off. Seriously? Did she really think this was some kind of redemption arc? That a few tears and some sleepless nights would undo 3 years of deception? Just because she finally felt guilty? Unbelievable. She walked over slowly and sat across from me. She gave me this small, pitiful smile, all soft and sad. I didn't give her the chance to open with some dramatic apology. I cut right through it. Why did you do it? My voice was low, flat. I wasn't there for some romantic tragedy. I wanted the truth. Brutal, ugly, unfiltered. Whatever it was. She looked down, started fidgeting with her wedding ring, still wearing it, of course. Of course she was. After what felt like forever, she finally took a breath and said, so quietly I could barely hear her, "It was a mistake." She swallowed hard and kept going. He was attractive. And I don't know. I was weak. That's it. I stared at her. She sounded like she was explaining a parking ticket. I almost laughed at how casually it came out of her mouth. Like it had just happened. Like she had tripped and fallen into someone else's bed and whoops, sorry babe. So, I said, leaning forward, trying to keep the disgust out of my voice but failing. Because he was attractive. You thought it was worth throwing everything away. Just like that. She didn't say anything. Just looked down again. Is that all? I asked. Is that really the whole explanation? Nothing deeper. No crisis. No unhappiness. No reason you felt neglected. Just pure attraction. She looked up at me, and I could see it. She was trying to read my face, scan for some sliver of softness, some sign that I was cracking. Maybe she thought if she could just see a flicker of sympathy, she still had a chance. She took a breath, her voice suddenly a little more defensive, like she was shifting from guilt to justification. I was scared, she said, her eyes wide, almost pleading. I didn't plan for this to happen. It just happened. I stared at her, numb, and shook my head slowly. Disgust swirled in my chest like acid. So, you didn't plan to cheat on me, I said, my voice quiet but sharp, but you did. She opened her mouth, but I didn't give her room. And you didn't plan to lie to me every day for 3 years, but you did that too, right? She froze. I could see her mind stalling, her eyes darting like she was trying to come up with something that wouldn't make her look worse than she already did. When were you planning on telling me? I asked, my voice harder now. Or were you just going to keep it a secret forever? I don't know, she stammered, clearly thrown off. I didn't think about it like that. I thought if I kept quiet, we could move on and be happy. Happy. I nearly laughed, but it wasn't funny. It was pathetic. I clenched my jaw, trying to push down the rising urge to shout right there in the middle of the cafe. Happy. She honestly believed she could lie to me for years, and somehow that would lead to happiness? It was beyond selfish. It was delusional. She had created this fantasy world where she controlled the truth, and I was just a clueless extra, playing the doting husband, the loving father, the man who would never question anything. I looked at her and said, slowly, deliberately, so that's it? You thought keeping this a secret was for the best? That you'd just keep playing happy family while I raised a little girl who's not even mine? Her eyes welled up again, and she reached across the table like she was going to touch my hand or maybe try to hold it. But I leaned back, folding my arms, stopping her in her tracks. No, I said, my voice low but steady. Don't try to make this about your feelings. You've had 3 years to think about this. 3 years. And now I'm supposed to just get over it. She broke then. The tears came harder, her shoulders trembling as she tried to hold it in. But I sat there, watching. I didn't feel bad. Not anymore. I was the one who'd been left in shock. The one who had been lied to, betrayed, humiliated. She could cry all she wanted. But I was done feeling sorry for her. I let her sit there for a moment. I didn't speak. I didn't even move. I just watched her. She kept wiping her tears, barely looking up, just staring down at her hands like a scolded child, fragile and ashamed. But even then, I kept waiting for her to say something that actually made sense. Something real. Something that sounded like an answer, not an excuse. But it never came. The silence between us stretched out, thick and suffocating. She said nothing. No explanation, no accountability. Just sniffles and shallow breaths and silence. After a few minutes, I decided I had heard enough. I didn't come here to watch her fall apart. I didn't care about her tears or her shame. I didn't come for a display. I came for clarity. I wanted truth, something solid to walk away with. And if she couldn't even give me that, then there was no point dragging this out. I leaned forward slightly, and when I spoke, my voice was flat. Cold. Look, I said, I'm done. I'm not interested in fixing this. And I'm not going to be guilt-tripped for raising a little girl who isn't mine. Her head snapped up, eyes wide. The panic was instant. I was ready to be a father, I said, letting the words hit the air like bricks. But you took that choice away from me. The day you decided to lie, you made that decision for me. Her lips trembled, her eyes searching mine desperately now. Please, she whispered. Her voice cracked, broken and barely audible. She's your daughter. She thinks you're her dad. She doesn't know anything else. Don't walk away from her because of my mistake. She loves you. That part hurt. I won't lie. She wasn't wrong. I do love that little girl. In some ways, maybe I always will. But every time I think about her now, it's like a knife twisting in my chest. I can't separate her from the betrayal. Every memory, every hug, every bedtime story, every whispered I love you, Daddy, it all feels poisoned. Built on a lie. And even though it shattered me, I knew I couldn't stay. Not like this. If I stayed, it would be out of obligation, not love. It would be a daily reminder of everything I lost. And that wouldn't be fair, to her or to me. I looked at my wife. No, at the woman who used to be my wife, and said, I'll always care about her. My voice was tight, but steady. But I can't live like this. You made that impossible. And now you'll have to deal with the consequences. Me? She gasped, and then she broke completely. Her face twisted, her body shook, and she started sobbing, loud, unrestrained, crying right there in the middle of the cafe. Heads turned. People stared. But I didn't care. Let them stare. This was her mess. And it was time she faced it alone. I stood up, pulled on my jacket, and without another word, I walked out, leaving her there, with her guilt and her tears. The weirdest thing was that as I walked away from that cafe, leaving her sobbing behind me, I felt lighter. I wasn't healed. I wasn't cured. There was no sudden peace washing over me like in the movies. But I was done carrying her lies. That burden wasn't mine anymore. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I could actually breathe. After the meeting, I drove back to my friend's place. He had taken a different car and arrived home before me. When I walked in, he looked up from the couch, concern already in his eyes. How'd it go? He asked, his voice low and careful. I dropped my keys in the bowl by the door, kicked off my shoes, and sat down next to him. It's over, I said. That's all I could manage. He nodded slowly, like he understood without needing more. Good for you, man, he said. That took guts. And just like that, we moved on. No dissecting the conversation, no asking for a play-by-play. He just let me be. It was the kind of support I didn't know I needed, quiet, steady, and judgment-free. In the days that followed, I focused on the basics. Wake up, shower, eat, go for a walk, fold laundry, repeat. I didn't try to force healing. I wasn't looking to rebuild or find myself or any of that feel-good nonsense people post on social media. I just wanted to function, to feel something close to normal again, even if it was just for 10 minutes at a time. The divorce was already in motion. I met with the lawyer a few more times, going through documents, signing papers, talking about timelines. Those meetings were a blur. I don't even remember half of what we discussed. Just numbers and dates and that constant ache in my chest every time he mentioned custody, even though there was nothing to fight for. There was no custody battle because, legally, I had no rights to the child I'd raised as my own. That hurt in ways I couldn't explain, like mourning someone who wasn't dead, but who was never really yours in the first place. My ex-wife kept trying to claw her way back in. Letters, voicemails. She'd try a different angle every time. Remorse, nostalgia, manipulation, even using her daughter as a bargaining chip. I miss you. She misses you. We can fix this. She keeps asking where you are. I'll do anything. I read one letter. Just one. It was the same script I'd heard in the cafe. Same tired apologies, same desperate promises. I didn't finish it. I didn't need to. I told my lawyer from that point forward, handle everything. I blocked her number, her email, her socials. She was out. Permanently. But my family. Yeah, that was a different beast entirely. My mom and my sister did not take my decision well, to put it mildly. They couldn't seem to wrap their heads around it, my own family. That I wasn't willing to just forgive, forget, and keep playing the happy family like nothing ever happened. Every single conversation felt like déjà vu. Are you overreacting? Think about your daughter. Your wife made a mistake, but she's sorry. It was a broken record, and I was sick of listening to it. Every time they brought it up, it chipped away at me. Not just the betrayal, but the fact that they didn't get it. That they couldn't or wouldn't even try. It was exhausting. And it hurt like hell to feel like I didn't have their support, like they were more interested in maintaining an illusion than standing by me through the fallout. Eventually, I had to make a decision about them, too. I stopped answering my mom's calls, stopped opening her long-winded texts, muted the group chat with my sister and a couple cousins who had started chiming in with their own 2 cents. I didn't need that noise. Not if they weren't going to be with me in this. Why should I keep them in the loop when all they did was guilt-trip me for trying to survive? For trying to heal? So, for now, silence felt like the best option. Not permanent, but necessary. Still, even with the pressure from my family off my back, the ache remained. That quiet, gnawing pain that wouldn't let go. Letting go of the idea of being a dad. That was so much harder than I thought it'd be. I had gotten used to that rhythm. The tiny arms wrapping around my neck when I walked through the door. The high-pitched giggle when I tickled her belly. The way she'd lean on my shoulder during bedtime stories. It didn't matter that the foundation of it was a lie. I had lived those moments. I had felt them, and now they were gone. Sometimes I'd see a dad carrying his kid on his shoulders or hear a little girl yelling, "Daddy," in the grocery store, and my chest would just seize. Like someone had knocked the wind out of me. Like I'd lost a part of myself. But I kept telling myself it was temporary. That this emptiness, this loss, it was something I just had to get through. Not erase. Not fix. Just survive. One afternoon, I was walking, something I'd started doing regularly to clear my head, and I found myself near this park. The same one I used to take my daughter to. I don't even know how I ended up there. My feet had just carried me. And when I saw it, the bench we used to sit on, the sandbox where she used to dig with her little plastic shovel, the spot near the swings where she once tripped and cried until I kissed her knee and made it better, it hit me like a freight train. I stood there frozen, watching the other parents laugh and chase their kids. And I felt like I was on the outside of something I thought had belonged to me. But it never did. That realization was sharp enough to make me turn around and walk away. I wasn't ready. Not yet. But over time. Not all at once. Not perfectly. I started to find myself again. Going back to work was a strange kind of relief. I threw myself into projects like a man on autopilot. Coding, meetings, reports, whatever it was, I took it on. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I just needed the noise. I needed structure. Something to anchor me while everything else felt like it had been ripped out from under me. My coworkers could tell something had changed. There were fewer jokes from me, fewer smiles. But to their credit, no one pushed. They gave me space, and I was grateful for that. My boss, Mark, called me into his office my second week back. I remember sitting down, expecting the usual rundown on targets and progress, but he just leaned back and said, "How are you doing, man?" Not work stuff. You. I hesitated for a second, unsure how honest to be. "I'm still standing," I said finally, managing a half shrug. He nodded slowly. "That's enough. Take it at your own pace." Those words hit deeper than he probably realized. That someone didn't expect me to have it all figured out. I carried that phrase with me every day after that. A few months passed, and then I made a decision. I couldn't stay here anymore. Everywhere I turned, something reminded me of her. Of the lie. Of the daughter I thought was mine. The grocery store where we used to shop together. The corner diner where we had weekend breakfasts. The pharmacy where I once picked up prenatal vitamins like the proudest man alive. It was like the city was soaked in memories, and none of them were clean anymore. So I left. I found a small, quiet town a few hours away. Not too remote, but far enough that it felt like a reset button. Moving was hard. I won't lie, packing up my life felt like peeling off old skin. There were pictures I couldn't bear to look at. Her handwriting on notes, shoved in drawers. Tiny clothes I had once folded with a father's love. Things I thought I'd grow old with. Most of it, I gave away. Some, I threw out. I didn't want ghosts in my new place. I didn't want to bring betrayal with me. I arrived at the new apartment just before sunset. It was a one-bedroom on the second floor. Simple. Quiet. Mine. That first night, I sat on the floor with takeout and a beer, surrounded by boxes. There was no laughter in the background, no tiny feet pattering down the hallway, no one waiting in bed. But for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel dread hanging over me. It was silent, but peaceful. I didn't have all the answers. I wasn't magically fixed. But this space wasn't poisoned. There were no lies hiding in the corners. And that meant everything. Over the weeks that followed, I began reconnecting with parts of myself I didn't even realize I'd let go. I reached out to a few old friends I had lost touch with over the years. Grabbed coffee, caught up, shared a few laughs without the weight of shame or anger. I joined a hiking group that met every Saturday morning, strangers at first, but slowly turning into something more. And I picked up my guitar again, the one that had been gathering dust in the back of my closet since life got too busy. I had forgotten how good it felt to just sit and play. Piece by piece, I started stitching together a life that belonged to me, not a life defined by betrayal, not one shaped by obligations or guilt or someone else's idea of what I should do, just mine. And with every new day, with every step forward, it felt like I was reclaiming something I had not realized I had lost. And as for my family, I still kept my distance. It was easier now, not painless, but manageable. The emails would come in every now and then. A thinking of you from my sister. A forwarded chain message from my mom that she probably sent to everyone. Once in a while, there'd be an actual message, something more deliberate, asking how I was or if I was ready to talk. But I didn't feel the need to respond. Not anymore. I'd spent enough time trying to explain myself to people who clearly didn't want to understand. I had screamed in silence, begged them to see what I was going through, and they had chosen not to. I wasn't going to keep chasing their approval. I had made my decision. If they couldn't respect it, that was on them. There was one message from my mom, a few weeks after I moved. She said something like, "I hope you're okay. We're still here if you come to your senses." I stared at the words for a long time before deleting the message. No anger, no tears, just numb acceptance. That was the best they could offer, and it wasn't enough anymore. Looking back, it's strange how fast life can change. One moment, you're settled. You've got a routine, a rhythm, a belief in the people around you. You trust, you love, you build. And then, one truth drops like a stone, and everything shatters. I had built my entire world around this idea of family, of loyalty, of unconditional love. I believed that doing the right thing would be enough to hold everything together. That if I gave enough of myself, I'd be safe, protected. But that illusion collapsed in an instant. And yet somehow, I was still here, still breathing, still standing, a little bruised, a little more cautious, maybe even a little colder in ways I hadn't expected. But still me. I didn't have it all figured out. I wasn't walking around with a 5-year plan or some big vision for the future. Most days, I was still putting one foot in front of the other. But each step I took, however small, however shaky, was mine. Not made for someone else. Not dictated by guilt or fear or other people's expectations. For the first time in a long, long time, I was moving forward on my own terms. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.